Hello there. Hello there, everyone. You are someone, and I'm someone else, and today we are going to talk about Mikhail Gorbachev, the last Soviet leader of the Soviet Union, the last Soviet leader. I don't know what he was called exactly. I think he may have been a premier of the Soviet Union or a secretary. I don't remember. But basically, he ruled over this giant country that had 15 republics in it. 15 Soviet republics. Obviously, it's called the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. Of course, there's 15 of them. Those that you don't remember, in 1991, pretty much all the republics left. Well, maybe in 1989, I think the first republic left, but basically in the span of within 2 to 3 years, all the republics left. But the reason I say rest in peace, Michael Gorbachev, you died a few days ago. Rest in peace. He's my favorite political theorists, and he's a libertarian. His ideal of open trade, open ideals, and I forgot what else he said. Open ideals, free express, and something like that. Just a lot of the protests. Uh, open movement. That's right. Open movement, open speeds, and open trade. Those are the three ideals. He let Pizza Hut go in, the most American corporation, and he advertised a freaking pizzeria, Pizza Hut. You should listen to the Russian commercial. Oh my god, it was amazing. Anyway, Michael Gorbachev is the philosophy I live by. He's the one who made me into a political theorist. His ideals have led me into thinking politically very libertarian. Well, I'm not as communist. I'm very anti-communist, and communism, in my opinion, is government control. At least in their communist party, even though they're called Soviet Socialist Republics, so technically they're not really Soviets because the workers don't really control it. It's more the politicians control it. Although they're supposed to represent the workers, so it's a single party system that's supposed to represent workers. It's a very strange system anyway. It basically lets the government control everything. But Gorbachev said, okay, I want the people now to have free expression. But the problem is, when you have a country built on suppressing speech, and these 15 republics really had their own nationality, it's very hard to build a country of freedom when everyone doesn't really like each other, when no one can agree on how to rule a country. And so what happened was the country sadly dissipated. It turned into something completely different. You got the Russian Federation, who's just threatening everybody, and then you got 14 other republics that are either aligned with Russia or aligned with Europe, or are like little puppets of Russia. They don't really. It's said in an alternate timeline where Gorbachev was successful in getting the rest of the world to believe his ideals, and the Eastern Bloc wasn't so poor, I think that would have been a much better timeline. Sadly, we did not learn our lesson through history. And rest in peace, Gorbachev. You did the most amazing the most amazing things that you were given with. The Russians did not let you have that. The Russians decided to declare independence under Gorbachev's command, and Gorbachev allowed it. But he lived 30 years in the Russian Federation, which he didn't want to be a part of. He wanted the Soviet Union to still exist. He didn't want there to be a new Russian Federation. But it happened, and it'd be like if the United States separated into 15 different republics. It would just be very strange, especially if the United States only existed for 70 years, which is exactly what the Soviet Union did. The Soviet Union was much more separated linguistically than the United States. It didn't have the same founding culture. The culture was very violent when it was founded, and at the end, it became very peaceful, actually. Gorbachev made it into a much more peaceful ununification. And so it's interesting to me that peace was the one thing that led to a collapse of a country. And the death of a country is peace, and then high inflation after that. After the Russian Federation was established by Yeltsin, the currency went down in value, leading to high inflation and lower supply chains and goods and services in the Russian Federation because people didn't really value trades because of communism before that. And the only people who got rich were the people who understood that the stock market was a real thing. That stocks cannot be printed or destroyed by the government. They can only be printed and destroyed by companies. And so people start buying up stocks, and so those are the oil tycoons of Russia. And now there's only really 6 people left who can threaten Putin in his quest to power to become the most powerful person in Russia. There's only 6 people left who can really challenge him in the throne, and nobody really wants to challenge Putin. So even though there's still there's still a lot of keys to power in Russia. It takes a lot to rule Russia. It's a lot like the United States. China's a lot different. China knocked down all their keys of power. So there's only really 1 or 2 keys of power you really need in China. Even though there's a billion people, the less keys of power you need, the more easy it is to just control everybody. But the more keys of power you need, it's harder to control everyone. That's what makes the United States such a good country. It's because you need to basically fund everybody in order to win an election here. In Russia, you don't really need to do that as much. You just have to get the 6 guys who are oil tycoons who control private industry in Russia, who technically is partially, I guess, government run, to basically agree with you, and then you're good. So that's the thing about Russia. It's all about the keys of power. That's what makes a dictatorship between a democracy. Well, not a democracy, but like a republic versus a dictatorship. The difference between the two, even though most dictatorships do call themselves republics, like North Korea calls itself the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, I don't really agree with it's not belonging to the people. It's not really democratic, and it's not really a republic. It's more of a dictatorship. But whatever, it's belonging to the family, the Kim Jong-un family. But anyway, it's like, that's the thing, right? And then anarchy is the most amount of keys. You don't want to have so many keys to where now the only really way to control a country is the military. And so it can lead to a dictatorship really quickly when there's an anarchy as well. So anarchy is I'm very impressed that the United States was able to stay together through like a major authority when the Revolutionary War happened. But at the same time, a lot of people don't like authority. You could see that with the Democrats not liking authority, but then they go to college in this authority system. It's very strange. And that's what makes me so different from like a Democrat voter. I'm a libertarian. I vote for the libertarians. I love the libertarians. But Democrats, I just don't understand them. They say, "Oh, I hate my student loans." Then why did you go to college then? Why did you sign a deal saying, but then again, everyone encouraged them. They told them to do bad things. It's like giving a giving a drug addict drugs, and then giving them money, and you're not knowing where this money's going, but you're enabling them. And so that's why we have a society of enablers, and they don't enable people to work hard and build up the supply chain. Instead, you know what we do? We enable drug addicts and people who don't parasites. Parasites. What do teachers produce? Well, teachers produce debt-ridden students. Does that really help with the supply chain? Probably not. In fact, it just makes a country of complainers. We didn't leave middle school, guys. Our mentality, we're a bunch of middle schoolers. I work at an Amazon warehouse, right? Freaking Amazon warehouse. These people are complaining about the stupidest things I've ever. I'm like, you guys, you're a bunch of middle schools. Your mentality hasn't left middle school. It's so sad to me, and it just shows me how, even though there's supposed to be sentience there, they might as well not be sentient. That's the thing about people. They're not interesting. After 10 minutes of talking to someone, they're not interesting. And I know I'm not an interesting guy. I'm a pretty boring guy. Let's just be real here. I'm not very interesting, right? What do? Invest in index funds and talk about supply chains in freaking different countries, right? I'm a theoretical economist who's also a libertarian who keeps voting for a party that's not gonna win, right? At least I'm a rebel, but I accept political defeat. I've accepted political defeat years ago. Gordon Joff died just a few days ago, and now his country's gone. 30 years ago, his country's gone, and now I live in the United States. I'm good, but I do think that I want to experience other things besides this culture of meh. It's like the parasites just rule everything. It's very strange. And then they take from the producers. They give $10,000 to the people who don't produce anything, give the student loans, it's basically communism, but it's government redistribution, but it's not really communism because there are still, tiers of like, oh, if you have a doctorate degree, you get paid more slightly. But I know Communism doesn't always have that rank up, and there wasn't very many millionaires in the Soviet Union until the end of it. So, in a lot of ways, Gorbachev really opened up the ideal of building wealth in the Soviet Union, but at the same time, you could argue that the Soviet leader was a millionaire in terms of power, but there wasn't really anybody's like bank account that said $1 million in the stock market, well, there wasn't a stock market. But I don't really know how you would measure wealth in the Soviet Union. You know what I mean? That's what makes it so interesting. And Gorbachev really changed the culture forever. He made the modern world that I live in. I mean, I was born 10 years after Gorbachev's rule, but he made the modern world that I live in. And while I may not like the people who are just robots who have the middle school mentality that never left middle school in their heads. They always think about being better by borrowing debt into cars and then complaining about the stupidest things like give me small items in the freaking warehouse when I'm giving everybody the best I can at a dirty Amazon warehouse. Whatever, we're not gonna go there. I shouldn't be ranting. Anyway, but yeah. Goodbye. You are someone and I am someone else.